All right, I think that will do it. Hello and welcome, credit union friends. My name is John Wyrau. I'm a trainer and consultant with Rick Olson Seminars. Rick and I are here along with our friends David and Ryan at C3 Technology Advisors. Hi, David and Ryan. We're talking about contact centers today. We want our contact centers so awesome, so amazing that every time our grandma calls in, she'd be proud that you work there. So today we're going to dig into three major things. Okay, we're going to talk about technology, we're going to talk about contact center leadership, and most importantly for today, we're going to talk about the emotional resiliency of our frontline agents. Okay, we're hoping to go about 45 minutes ish. I say ish because we have some very passionate folks here on the webinar. So sometimes we like to really drive our points home. At the end of the session, we'll be available for some questions and answers, a Q&A session. We're also drawing names out of a hat, so stay on till the end. We're going to be drawing names for a Bluetooth Ember coffee mug. These things are awesome. I bought one for my wife a couple Christmases ago. She loves her coffee and tea, loves it so much she savors it for hours. So her Ember keeps it nice at the exact same temperature she wants that entire time. Throughout the session today, feel free to put things into the Q&A section on the bottom of your Zoom session or in the chat session. And just so you know, this is being recorded and we will send out a link to each and every one of you. So let's kick us off with the man himself, Rick Olson, someone for some of you needs no introduction. Okay, but for those of you first meeting Rick today, his list of credit union credentials is so long I had to shorten it, otherwise we'd be here all day. But let me give you a quick overview. He's worked with hundreds of credit unions over the past 30 years, helping with sales, service, leadership, workplace development. He's hosted America's Credit Union Conference. He was the instructor for CUNA's World Class Service Leadership Institute. He's the founder of Coaching College and Emerging Leaders programs, where we use to help current and upcoming leaders be more effective at their jobs. He has made credit union presentations in 46 states, various countries, and has been a featured speaker at the World Credit Union Conference. Rick Olson, we'll hand it over to you. Take it away.
Thanks, John, and good afternoon, friends. Great to be sharing this with you, John and David, Ryan. Just a real treat to link up with you on this very special day. To all our credit union friends, want to welcome you. John mentioned the Ritz-Carlton program. I did that program for 17 years. I learned so much from those folks. And one of the things I learned that really impacted me on the first time I was there, they said, we're going to do a tour of the hotel. We'll look at the frontline staff, and then we will check out the heart of the hotel. And the moment they said that, I went, what a great way to talk about those people who aren't out front. In our credit union world, we tend to call them back office people. Never liked the phrase, didn't like the sound of it. It sounded like people that we shouldn't let the public see. It sounded kind of derogatory. But this whole idea of heart of the hotel, in our case, heart of the credit union, that made so much sense. So ever since that time, I've always referred to all of our people who are behind the scenes as heart of the credit union. When I think of the heart of the credit union and I think about the contact center, this is like the heart of the heart. This is an incredibly valuable thing within our credit union. So I'm just thrilled that we can spend this day talking about how do we ensure that we have an exceptional contact center on every level, culture, technology, well-equipped people, et cetera. Let me talk about my relationship with John Wyrau. I have been working with Frankenmuth Credit Union for over a dozen years. They're an exceptional credit union, and John is a huge part of that. He joined there about 8 years ago, and the moment he joined, he and I started having lunch every time I came to town. So I've been having lunch with John once a quarter for about 8 years. And 3 years ago, we started talking on a weekly basis. 1 year ago, we started doing a podcast together called Regen, where three of us interview interesting leaders from across the country. John is a very dear friend, a very gifted man, and it's been a joy to bring him along as an associate in my own business. Some of the things I admire greatly about him: he's an awesome family guy. He's a high ethics guy. He has worked in a leading credit union and learned so much at Frankenmuth Credit Union. He has his master's degree in organizational development. He's a call center whiz kid, and he's an excellent communicator. And there's a lot that we can learn from John. And so John, going to have you kind of take the lead as we move forward, but great to hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Rick, for those kind words. I really appreciate it. I've spent so much time, my majority of my career in the contact center. So I'm very excited to be working here with you, Rick, and with C3 Technology Advisors in the space. So let's jump right in. Okay, today our main focus is not just data. We will talk about some quick tips and hints and introduce you to some of the main things you should be thinking about as contact center leaders. Our main focus is also not just technology, although we will be talking about some best practices and how to use it, and certainly why it's important to have the latest and greatest technology, and how to use companies like C3 Technology Advisors, who offer their services free of charge, by the way. I'll explain that more in a little bit, to help you in this technology selection, which can be a difficult process. So although that's important, data technology, very important, the main focus today is uh, the most important aspect of our credit unions. It's our staff, right? Our employees, our frontline agents. And although our members are the ultimate priority, we need to really wrap our arms around these frontline folks and give them everything they can possibly need to offer the very best member experience. Okay, that's a theme we're going to talk about a lot today, is member experience. So I am curious. We're going to start off with a poll. We're going to pop up our first poll right now. Take a second and let us know if you consider your contact center a cost center, a revenue center, an experience center, or I'm not quite sure, not one of these. So as you're tallying that up, I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Man, isn't that awkward? I can't stay silent that long. It's actually something I do when I present to different contact centers, that consider that hold time. Our average speed of answer can be 20 to 30 seconds. Note how awkward that can be when someone has a question for you and they're waiting for it. That's why it's important to have the latest and greatest technology in the hold music, the wait time. I love what I'm seeing here. Cost center as the lowest there, which is nothing wrong with that. That's how we've seen it for years. Revenue center at 13%, experience center 72%. This is awesome. And then I don't know, or none of these at about 13. So let's dig in. Maybe you can provide some clarity by the end of this. For years, I've heard things that, contact centers are cost centers. They're maybe running a switchboard, they're glorified operators. Maybe they're even on the lowest end of the pay scale at the credit union. Maybe it's a stepping stone, to get somewhere else, to the member service department and some other department. But I've seen a lot of efforts over the last several years to turn ourselves into revenue centers, which is absolutely great. We talk to so many members every single day. It only makes sense to analyze their needs in real time and offer them products and services that will benefit their financial situation. Notice I didn't say the words cross sales. Sometimes it's an intimidating word. We don't want to be car salespeople, right? Or we don't want to be upselling in terms that we're used to hearing that word anyways. So it's all about enhancing the member experience with our products and services to make their lives better. So wherever you fall in your contact center journey, cost center, revenue center, we're going to focus on the entire member experience. And honestly, that's the way the world has turned. I'm going to share my screen here real quick and show you. I don't have the, Ryan's going to go into the actual percentages behind this, but I just want to share you some data that I found on Gallup. Member experience, people will pay more for better experiences. I know in the credit union world, sometimes we say we can have the higher rates of returns or lower interest rates on our loans and credit cards. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes the big banks do have better rates than us, but that doesn't matter because they're going to focus on the experience. Credit unions focus on the member experience, okay? People also leave due to bad experiences. Experience can be more influential than marketing, and people will spread their negative experience far more vastly than a positive experience. So we really, really need to focus on that. And I'll get to share some more things in a second. I just really wanted to tell you why this is so important and why I personally care so much about the member experience. So I'm going to share with you a kind of a lofty goal and mindset that I have. I think that credit unions can lead us down a path to better communities and society as a whole. I think the contact centers can be the hub of that. The reason is there's so much stress and unrest in our world right now. Actually, let's do that next poll. How stressed are agents now as compared to before 2020? We'll pop up poll number 2 because we have so much stress, and there's calls for this big societal change, right? We want to make the world a better place. We want to We want to stand on our social media soapboxes and give these strong opinions on how we can do this. Well, I believe the way to truly see some changes is like a grassroots type of approach. And the credit unions are the awesome vessel for that to happen because everyone inescapably needs a financial institution. So, what better place to accomplish a grassroots, make the world a better place type of approach than in this industry where we focus on people helping people? Okay, because let's think about this. The saying is 40 by 40. We spend 40 hours a week for 40 years of our lives at work. Let's be honest, it's more like 50 by 50. Yeah, 74% here say experiencing more stress now than before 2020. Maybe about the same levels of stress. Yeah, the stress has been up as an industry for quite some time. Interesting data. Experiencing less stress. I'm really happy to see that. But yeah, I mean, we say 40 by 40. I say it's more like 50 by 50. We're normally working more than 40 hours a week. We're working later and later in our lives. The reason this is important is because I say when we're 100 years old, looking back on our lives, we're going to really focus on our life happiness, the effectiveness we've had on other people is going to be where we spend the majority of our time. We spend so much time at work. We see our coworkers and we talk to members sometimes more than we talk to and see our own family and friends. Okay, so this is where we spend the majority of our time, and this is where we can make a real impact on our communities, right? Speaking of communities, it's another great thing about credit unions. We invest money back into our communities, so we have this like full circle. Especially at the contact center, where we talk to more people than any other department. At least that's the general experience I've had in the credit unions that I have worked with. Okay, so this full circle that I'm talking about, my lofty goal here is in the contact center, we can make members' lives better, we can make each other's lives better on our team. Okay, and as we develop as individuals, our department gets better. As our department gets better, we are a better face for the credit union as a whole. We see credit union improvements, credit unions get better, we see improvements in our communities. Communities make up society, right? And as our communities and society is better, it helps the individuals as a better place for us as individuals to live. So there is my big lofty kumbaya moment, which I truly wholeheartedly believe credit unions are the vessel for this. But I also want to talk about how it's not just that. Doing these things, focusing on this engagement type stuff and making this environment a better place to work can improve the bottom line of your organization. Okay. So let me get to some of that data here. Engagement. We're talking about engaging our staff in this way and with this information. Engaged staff, it can increase productivity by 17%, okay, and higher profitability by 21%. Okay, so we're actually talking about bottom line improvements when we're talking about this stuff. Now, let me tell you another way we can improve the bottom line experience of credit unions. I was reading this Gallup article in the financial service industries, and there's a high correlation between the excellent conversation you have, having an excellent experience. Now, this was banking data, so they would call them customers, right? Members for us. High correlation between the level of excellence of that conversation and successful sales, right? Successful products and services to help make their lives better. So they were actually looking at this hierarchy chart right here. I think it's very interesting because this is the stuff the big banks are looking at. Okay, they say to get the least amount of sales is if you focus on the bank itself, or in our case, the credit union, right? To focus on, okay, I know I need to sell these products and services because it's going to make our credit union more profitable. I say most credit unions live at least in this middle tier, if not the top two tiers, the holistic focus, right? I'm going to make them a better member. I'm going to make them a better customer of the bank. So they utilize more products and services and they're more sticky, right? Well, I think where credit unions really stand out, where we can stand out and where we already do and continue, is this financial vision, right? Focusing on the person behind the member, focus on the individual. And I think it's important to focus on this information because the big banks are focusing on it. Okay. They're trying to make their experience better. They know the experience. They know the experience data that I just shared. So we need to continue to make that our niche, right? We need to make that the number one thing that we focus on. So that was my soapbox moment there, where we can make the world a better place and we can improve the bottom line of our credit unions. Let's focus on some of the individuals, right? Specifically in our contact centers. We're talking about engaging them, okay? And the engagement problem is real in our country right now. 32% of US employees are engaged in their work. Well, only 1/3. I think credit unions normally live a little bit higher in that, but just I already showed you the engagement data, right? 17% more productive, 21% more profitable. It's concerning to see only 1 in 3 leaders or supervisors are engaged. You would think they would be the more engaged folks, but it's the same number. So we have an engagement problem. We have the great resignation. We have quiet quitting. We have difficulties in our contact centers, especially because of the burnout that they experience. That we said of the attendees here, I think it was over 70% of the people said we're more stressed now. And I was reading this blog that said call center burnout is due to outdated technology. That's why we're going to talk about technology today. Also, the pressure to perform an internal policy. That's why we're going to dig into the leadership aspects, how to be a most effective contact center supervisor. My opinion is the emotional roller coaster is why we get so much burnout. Let me explain the emotional roller coaster real quick. I do this practice when I work with different contact centers where I have them shout out all the different emotions they can think of, or at least write them down. It's really funny. Most people can only come up with 4 or 5 emotions. Historically, they've said there's a big 8 emotions that we deal with. I was listening to this podcast. I think she wrote a book about it too by Brene Brown, talking about how she found maybe 20 to 30 different emotions that we all experience. I found a scientist that found over 2,000. Okay. Bottom line is, there are a lot of emotions out there and we absorb those. It's natural tendency for humans to absorb those emotions. Now imagine our contact center folks. I know some that take on average 100 calls a day. Well, what do we expect from them? We expect them to be calm and cool and answer the call the same every single time with a smile on their voice. But they have whatever number you want to believe. It doesn't matter if it's 20, 30, or 1,000. They're experiencing all these different emotions throughout the day. They might have some really great calls, and then all of a sudden they might have some really tough ones. Bam, 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 back to back to back. It can really set you off your equilibrium, right? It can really set you off. And so we expect them to all of a sudden turn around and answer the next call completely fine, like that never happened. The previous call never happened. That is a difficult thing to do. Okay, that's a difficult thing to do. So one thing that I love to teach, and I'm going to take you all through this practice right now, it's called having mind like water. I first came across this term in the book The Servant by James C. Hunter. Okay, it's actually an old karate term, or karate. I don't know how you really pronounce that, but it is having mind like water. So let's all take a second in our busy day, our busy weeks, our busy lives. You feel free to close your eyes and take a breath. Now imagine this nice, calm, cool mountain lake. There's not a ripple in it. It is smooth like glass. Okay, now imagine someone comes up, throws a pebble into that pond, into that lake. It responds just as it should. It ripples out and goes back to clean and clear and calm. Now imagine someone comes and throws a boulder into that lake. It ripples out, a little bit bigger of a splash, right? Takes a little bit longer, but it levels back out just as it should. So when I say we need mind like water in our contact centers, we need to find this state, right, that we want to get into. We need to find it when we walk in the door. We need to find it in between each and every call so that we don't overreact or underreact, right? So if someone throws a pebble into our pond, we're not already stressed out and respond with a tsunami, right? Or if someone throws a boulder into our pond, we just absorb it and don't react at all because some members need a little bit more attention than others. We don't want to overreact. We don't want to underreact. And we want to start every call with mind like water. So that's a stage. We're going to use technology, leadership, and emotional resiliency to develop this mind like water. And so we can have effective, crucial conversations. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Rick Olson to talk to us about crucial conversations. Rick, you are muted. And we're trying to unmute.
Bottom left, Rick, bottom left. Click your caret arrow, maybe select a different microphone.
There we go.
Got it. No, at the moment you said I'm turning it to Rick, my screen went to something crazy. All of you disappeared. I disappeared. Sorry about that, friends. But John, we will talk about that. We'll talk about the emotional conversations. Isn't it something how they come out of nowhere? You're having a conversation, it's smooth, everything is great. And it's like one statement, one sentence, one word can trigger something. And now we're deep into an emotional conversation. I view emotional conversations this way. Three things have to be in place for it to be an emotional conversation or a crucial conversation. And those are: number one, the stakes are high. There's a lot at stake here. Number two, emotions run strong. We're feeling it on both sides. And number three, opinions vary. I see it one way, you see it another way. And when those three things come together, we're smack in the middle of a crucial conversation. The good news is it happens to all of us. It's how we navigate through that makes a difference. And one of the best resources I've ever read is related to this theme, and the book is simply called Crucial Conversations. It's on my Mount Rushmore of books. I wish I had read it when I was 20 years old. It would have made a huge difference early in my career. But in this book, the author says the key to these conversations is to be absolutely committed to making it safe for you and for the other person. And if you can make it safe, you can talk about anything at all. So there's so much packed into this book that will help you and your agents in doing that. But I want to give you just one takeaway that's been extremely helpful to me. And the author calls that takeaway "Start with Heart." He said, when you have a crucial conversation, there's 4 questions you need to ask yourself. Number one, what do I want for the other person? Ultimately, what is it that I want them to know, to feel, to experience? How do I want them to leave? What do I want for them? Number 2, what do I want for myself? Some introspection. What do I want for me? What do I want to have come out of this whole conversation for me? Number 3, what do I want for both of us? What do I want for the relationship? I really have to think that through before I get into the gritty emotional conversation. And then number 4, the big question: and how am I going to act to ensure that those things happen? And just by asking those 4 questions, it can keep us from going down the wrong path, the wrong trail, and lead to possibly a disastrous conclusion. So a huge fan of this book, Crucial Conversation. Just for a moment, I'm going to mention 2 of my favorite books I've read during COVID. 72% of you said stress has risen since COVID. I feel it everywhere. I've been all over America. People are edgy. Stress is high. My 2 favorite resources I've used during COVID are, number 1, The Positive Dog by John Gordon. And it's all about making sure that on a daily basis, you're feeding your positive self. The other one is also a book by John Gordon called The No Complaining Rule. Exceptional pieces, can be very helpful in this kind of edgy, fragile time that we live in. So a few resources that can be helpful, but Crucial Conversations, if you haven't read it, I'd try to pick it up within a week and get into it. It's that good and that helpful. I'm going to turn it back to you, John.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Rick. And just so everyone, I'm going to turn your attention to the chat. David's been putting all the different books we've been mentioning in there as well. All this is so very important. Crucial conversations, with your own staff as well, amongst your team, amongst supervisors and employees, as well as with our members. So the stuff that this is all rooted in, the stuff that I really, really enjoy training. Most of my training is centered around the concept of, let me see here, the concept of emotional intelligence. So I'm going to share the grid of what emotional intelligence looks like. Okay. In the book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry. I love this book. I follow it in a lot of the trainings. It's very easy. It was actually a textbook in one of my master's classes, but it's a really short, easy, simple read. It talks about emotional intelligence as a journey from self-awareness to self-management to social awareness and relationship management. Don't necessarily like the term relationship management because it makes relationships seem kind of tedious, but think of it as like interaction management, a 30-second conversation conversation with a member, could be a lifelong, workplace relationship with your coworkers, just to have the best possible interactions. So self-awareness, being truly aware of who you are, this is a lifelong journey for all of us. Really, what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what makes you do the things you do. And then once you have that awareness, focus on self-management, use that awareness effectively, productively, control those negative emotions, and utilize those positive ones. That's a personal side. And then on the social side, we have social awareness. What makes others tick, picking up on the cues of others, using all three of those things so that we can have these awesome interactions, these crucial conversations, awesome relationships that we're developing. So I want to give you guys some solid takeaways here before we flip over to the technology side of things on how you can be more emotionally intelligent as a contact center agent. Number one, we're going to enhance your self-awareness. Establish your mission, your values, and your vision. Okay. Figure out who you are. What's your mission statement as an agent? Who do you want to be? How do you want to impact others on your team? How do you want to impact members? Establish your own mission statement, and then have values. Your values are like your guardrail. What are you not willing to compromise to accomplish that mission? And then what's your vision? Try to visualize all that. What does it look like when you have these difficult conversations? How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered as a coworker and as a leader for your member who's looking to you for financial help? Number two is what pushes your buttons. Okay, now this is really figuring out what makes you upset, what makes you a little hot under the collar, makes your blood boil a little bit. List them all out and make this list go forever. New things come up throughout our lives. What does a member say? What does a member do? What does a coworker say? What does your supervisor say? What does one of your employees say that really pushes your buttons? We're just in the self-awareness bit. So establish that list. Okay, and then we go on to the next bit. Enhance your self-management, right? This is the second step towards this journey of excellent relationships. We want to develop and schedule a self-management strategy. Notice I say schedule it. This is proactive. For me, it's smiling and breathing. We do not breathe enough as a society. Plenty of studies show that. Google it. Smiling actually can almost trick your brain into being happy. It'll trigger those emotional centers in your brain for happiness. Now there are also studies that show if you're fake about it, it's not going to do anything. So I actually try to find something to be thankful for. I actually have something every 30 minutes pop up on my phone that reminds me to smile and breathe. Not just when I'm upset, not just when someone pushes my buttons, but so I can be in this mind like water, even keel. So when grandma calls in, she's going to get the best possible experience. Okay. So develop and schedule it. Could be anything for you. I smile and breathe. Next, then craft your response to those frustrating moments. Okay. So the first one was proactive, schedule it throughout your day. Now it's reactive. When my buttons get pushed, this is what I'm going to do. Again, maybe it's smile and breathe. Maybe it's count to 10. Maybe it's get up and walk away. Maybe it's take a drink of water. Figure out what your response is going to be, and also figure out an actual response, a verbal response on how you can handle that. I think of it as a game, honestly. Once you establish that list of what pushes your buttons, it's out there. It's out of your brain, and now it's in control. It's something you can control. So when someone now pushes my buttons, something that's on my list, I can smile and say, I'm not going to let that stress me out. I'm not going to let that impact me negatively. Okay. I'm not going to let that mess up this conversation or my relationship. I've identified it and I've got a way to get above it. The last little bit, social awareness and relationship management on the social side. I just want to talk about a couple things. We talk about always walking a mile in people's shoes. I say, let's understand what it was like to walk that mile in their own shoes. Let's understand their experience as much as possible, right? And it comes down to Beanie, B-I-N-I, be interested, not interesting. There's a cool TED Talk out there about this young man. He was a 4.0 student in high school, got in a car accident, had some brain damage. His IQ went down considerably to the point where he was scared he was never going to be successful. He started studying emotional intelligence and created several businesses on this term, this premise of be interested, not interesting. Beanie, focus on the customer, focus on the member, be as interested as possible about their full picture, and you will find success. I also suggest, like I said earlier, have a back pocket, fix it statement of some sort. So when things get a little bit crazy, you can say something like, I'm very sorry. It seems like I'm not communicating well here. I just want you to know I'm here to help you in any way I can. Let's talk about some things we can do for you. One of those statements, just so you're ready with it in case a conversation does get a little crazy. So we have really hammered home emotional resiliency. Let's pivot to technology. Okay. There's an overlap here. technology can help us achieve that mind like water state. So first of all, in terms of member communications, we should be focused on offering as many communication channels as we possibly can so members can interact with us the way they prefer. Chats, texts, phones, emails, faxes, social media, video chats, virtual tellers, whatever you think, it's what our members need, okay? Because we need to focus on our staff, focus on the members, let them offer the communicate with us the way they prefer, have the right technology to reduce friction so our staff can have mind like water. I'm talking about an omni-channel experience, all these channels coming into one software. So you have less logins for security reasons. They don't have to remember so many logins or have them saved somewhere they shouldn't have them saved. Less toggling. I see so many contact centers with 3 or more screens to choose from, right? And then they have to decide, okay, should I answer this text first or this chat first or this email or this call? Behind the scenes, we can use technology, and you as supervisors can decide what mode of communication is the highest priority. Normally it's like calls and live chats, but maybe after a text has been sitting there, normally you don't need to respond quite as quickly to texts and emails, but maybe after that text's been there for 5-10 minutes, that jumps priority over the next live chat that comes in. So get all of that out of your contact center agents' brains. Do not waste brain space on that stuff. Let technology take care of all that so we can focus 100% on members. Now, when you're choosing technology in this omni-channel environment, you have to focus on your frontline staff's needs. You have to focus on your supervisory needs. IT needs to have a say because they're probably managing it. Cybersecurity folks, right? Everyone needs to have a say up and down the entire organizational chart. It can be a lot of people to get on the same page. And then let's talk about other vendors. If you're getting into artificial intelligence, right? You have to get into chatbots or virtual assistants or even voice biometrics for authentication purposes. So now you've got to get more people involved and how to make this big thing function. This is why this is a part of consulting that I used to not like doing, and I'm so happy that I found C3 Technology Advisors because it can be like herding cats, getting all these people on the same page and getting them all aligned. But you can get someone like C3 Technology Advisors. I met them at the Michigan Credit Union League Contact Center Conference not too long ago. They offer their services free of charge to you. How do you do that? Well, they get paid by the vendors. And I said, okay, C3 guys, shoot it to me straight. You probably have 2 or 3 folks that pay you the most and you shoot everybody that way. That's not the case. They actually have the exact same agreement with every one of the hundreds of vendors they work with so that they have no preferred people. So you don't pay anything to them. They get paid by the vendors, and normally they can actually negotiate a lower rate than if you had gone directly to those vendors themselves. So that all being said, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. David Wright with C3 Technology Advisors.
Thank you, John and Rick, and good afternoon, everyone. As John mentioned, I'm David Wright, Global Technology Advisor for IT consulting firm C3 Technology Advisors. Before we dive into the technicalities of different contact center technologies, I wanted to start with a question we think is relevant to technology and what we do at C3. How can credit unions compete with big banks and their trillions of dollars of assets? Well, banks of that size are too big to be concerned with the individual communities you serve as credit unions. And so your credit union competes and thrives, providing your cities and towns with exceptional member experiences. So no one knows better than you all how to serve your members. The only question is whether you have the technology necessary to serve them beyond your physical locations. Because if we can leverage technology to deliver that one-of-a-kind credit union experience, not just within your branches, but every time a member calls, texts, chats, or otherwise, then your credit union will continue to thrive regardless of what Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo are doing. So how do you get to that point where your shareholders have access to your stellar member services 24/7, 365 from anywhere in the world? Well, here's 3 steps you can take. Number 1, assess your contact center. Take inventory of all current technologies and platforms in use today. Review your bills and expenses, taking note of contract end dates, early termination fees, cost increases, and so on. And take a good look at your, jumping over to slide number 2, strategizing on your desired future state. If you have an understanding of after assessing your contact center, Once you have an understanding of your contact center, you can begin to strategize on a desired future state. That means determining what you want your workforce to look like, both near term and long term. Are your agents remote or in office? How many employees will you need, etc. It also means narrowing down what communication channels your members will have access to and what technology your agents will be expected to master. Finally, management and coaching, contact center.
Keep going, David. You're good. You just have a spotty internet, it seems, or something.
Okay. I'll power through and turn it over to Ryan in just a minute. Number 3, if you can answer all those questions, you might be ready to start evaluating providers. That means vendor demos and proof of concepts, contract negotiations, and project management through the implementation of the technology you ultimately select. So those 3 steps coming directly from hundreds of contact center evaluations and implementations C3 has been a part of over the last 15 years. If your IT team have any questions on starting or finishing a contact center evaluation, please reach out. We want to help your credit union utilize technology, deliver exceptional member experiences, and continue to widen the gap between you and your big bank competition. Now, for one of our most tenured advisors at C3, who personally has been a part of many dozens of contact center evaluations, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who knows more about contact center technology, especially in the credit union space. Mr. Ryan Boyk, I hope your internet connection is better than mine.
Hey, buddy, thanks. So I'm going to talk today about the importance of addressing this in the credit union space. So I love the heart analogy that Rick used. So yeah, the contact center is the heart. It's important. It's your brand. And now, within the last couple of years, it's never been easier. All of the technology is within reach, even the smallest credit union today. So every credit union conversation, there's a few things that we talk about. So you got to be able to address the demand for a flexible work schedule. These are nationwide statistics in the call center industry. I know that the credit unions don't have probably this high of agent turnover. You know, we're a family, more of a family environment. But still, if you're not at least in a position to offer remote work, flexible work, you'll eventually lose good people. It might not be right away, but sooner or later, somebody will say, you know, it's more important for me. I'm gonna go work at XYZ credit union down the street because I can work remote. And it's easy to do that with technology today for the contact center. Legacy technology, the old PBXs, not so much. It's definitely not secure. The one stat I want to talk about, so John mentioned this, all these stats here about stress on the agents. The poll revealed this. So member expectations have changed. People are less tolerant, less patient. We get groceries delivered. We order from Amazon, it better be there that day. Otherwise, we might not be happy. So the highlighted stat, 76% would stop doing business after one bad experience. You don't want that. We want the experience to be so great that they're going to tell other people about it. And thus, they're going to, you're going to grow your membership that way. Now, I think grandma would be on board if your mission statement resembled something like this. So keep that in mind. The good news is, folks, that there's a lot of problems that we can address because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of options to consider for call center, contact center needs. Everything's out there. The sky is the limit today with technology, so we can do it. The bad news is that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of options out there bringing to your call center. So what do you want to do? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, throw a dart. Which one of these have the integrations into your credit union core? Who's got the best Salesforce integration? What about an Office 365 plugin? What about this? What about that? There's a lot of variables. So, and then also there's a lot of gotchas, questions that you might forget to ask that maybe perhaps the salesperson at said supplier forgot to tell you. Well, here's the answer. It's right here. If you know which questions to ask, you see in this questionnaire, guys? Okay. If you know which questions to ask, you're off to a great start. Hopefully you have a system like this that has everything you need to ask and gather data. So data is key. What you need to do is take your time. So grandma's not in a hurry. You shouldn't be either on this. Take your time, do this right. Once you've gathered the data, let's interpret it, let's analyze that, and let's make use of it. So hopefully you got other tools like this that are automated with all the research. So for example, maybe we want some kind of a TCPA compliant dialer. What do we want? Maybe we want, we need to have co-browse number one. We want texting. We want a queue call back. We want maybe an Instagram. So did you guys know that any type of communication can be queued into a call center? If you want a Facebook queue, if you think your members are Facebooking, if you think they're tweeting, we can do a tweet queue. Oh, we got to have AI. So let's do that chat bot. And what else? Oh, where's that virtual agent assist? So look at this, just taking all the work, doing a lot of this work for you because it's been done. The data is here. Now, if you don't have that, I'm gonna recommend, I'm trying to get my PowerPoint back here. If you don't have that, I'm gonna recommend that you consider professional help to avoid looking at one of the vendors I showed you and saying, oh, that's gonna work good for us, but do we ask all the right questions? Do we do this, do that? Oh no, we didn't do it. And now we're stuck with something that doesn't work. Well, I thought it looked good. That salesperson said, good to go, right? So every credit union we talk to is concerned with that. In summary here on this, consider professional help if you can. It'll help you save you time and money. Consult your peers as well. There's other credit unions, many that are on this call that have done this before. Talk to them. What did you guys do? How do you like it? Would you do the same thing again? What do you wish you did different on your contact center? And then again, take your time. Grandma's not in a hurry. You shouldn't be either. John mentioned talking about your staff. We always bring this to the forefront because the staff is the heart. The contact center agent is the heart. And if they're not happy, they're not going to give that grandma-like experience. Okay. So enable them to do the great work. John mentioned less toggles, less passwords, make it easy. Less is more, whatever you want to call it. Just enable them to do great work as best you can, and they will do great work, and they will provide that member referral. Here's an example of one way to do that. This is a particular call center, contact center vendor where your agent can come in. They're going to log into a single interface. This is an example. And you'll see that they can just stay in here all day. And this is linked into other applications as well. So it can pop up agent assist cards. It can pop up member information. Here you'll see there's communications coming in. You got a cell phone call. You got a chat coming in. There's a voice call, the green phone. Then you got emails. You got, look at, there's even a tweet queue and a chat queue down there. So we can queue all that up for you. And this table stakes these days, folks. It's not hard to do. And you can customize this. Here's metrics about average handle time and things like that. Your staff is first, enable them, keep them happy. Consider your member demographics. So the US statistic or the US Census Bureau, 60% of the US population right now is 45 years and younger. Well, you know what that means. Some younger folks don't like to have the old traditional phone call. They might want to interact on a text or a chat or a WhatsApp or whatever the case may be. So the good news is very easy. All of those contact center providers, most of them anyways, have a blended, seamless omni-channel capabilities. So you meet your member where they want to meet you. You interact how they want to interact with you. If they want to call in or if they want to chat in, or text, they can move, your member can move seamlessly between all these channels and not have to redial or not have to retell the story. You know how frustrating that is. So this is what is going to bring that experience, and just make it easy. So you're making it so, first of all, I just talked about make it easy for your staff. They're going to be happy. Now let's make it easy for the members. They're going to be happy. And again, our goal, member recruitment. So next, in summary, consider your membership communications options. Okay, this doesn't have to be overwhelming because people sometimes will say, well, I don't want to forklift this system because people don't like change. And then I gotta, it's never a good time to do it. You don't have to cannonball into the cold pool or lake without knowing the water temperature. You can go dip your toe in there, try a couple of these channels or technologies out. Wade in there, get up to your ankles. So what I mean by that is let's address your IVR, your interactive voice response now. Let's improve that. Let's maybe get a couple of virtual agents in there. I don't mind talking to a robot if they can just take care of some mundane tasks. Maybe Q4, we're going to say email queue, text queue. We're going to put a chat in on the website, whatever the case is. So you can take your time. Again, Grandma's not in a hurry, either should you be. This doesn't have to be scary. This doesn't have to be a hard thing to do. We can even layer these technologies on legacy equipment. So you don't have to throw that old box out if you don't want to. We don't recommend that, but it's definitely in the realm. I'm checking time. Okay, I'm gonna go 2 more minutes real quick. AI, you need to embrace it. Don't be afraid of it. They're not coming to get you. AI is going to work 24/7 by 365 for you. They don't call in sick and they don't make mistakes. Here's what credit unions are doing with artificial intelligence right now. It's automation. We can automate approvals or just statuses. Talk to a robot for that password reset or to make a payment. So, and the integrations is key. Next, last one, rethink your KPIs, key performance indicators and metrics. The old days of the old CSAT and the average handle time and the 80-20 rule. These are all things that grandma would not like, because you're rushing your agents off the phone, because if they don't get off the phone, within 90 seconds, they're going to get a bad score. Here's some newer scores that have come out recently. And I'm going to talk about active contact resolution next, and how that is a real life credit union case scenario that improved profitability. So there's a lot on here, but active call resolution. So you set a threshold. Let's turn that 80-20 target into a 3-day ACR. 80-20 means I want 80% of our calls answered within 20 seconds. And again, that one, average handle time, those all tick grandma off. Grandma wants to talk about the cookies she's making and how she watered the flowers twice, okay? So we'll just set up an ACR at any point within 1, 3, 5 days. Did grandma have to call back in for any reason? You really don't want that. You should resolve that on the first call in. So this is going to free up time for your agents. It's going to enable them to do a better job, take care of grandma. You'll have an increase in revenue, decrease in incoming calls. And because your call volume is less, let's do something else. Let's do an outbound, some kind of a call, some other profit or revenue generating activity. So increase membership and member experience. And anyways, sorry about that. I can't go to the next one. So we're going to make grandma proud. I went super fast. Get a hold of us for more information on some of this stuff. And there's a whole lot more out there, folks. Like I said, the sky is the limit. Now it's going to be back to John. Are you ready, John?
Yes, I am, Ryan. Nice job. Thank you. And I told you guys 45 minutes ish. We're a little bit over now. I'm just going to wrap up with a few thoughts. We've really talked about the emotional resiliency side. We talked about how technology can be an awesome accelerant to all of this. But as James C. Collins said in the book, Good to Great, technology is an awesome accelerant, but it's not everything. We require excellent leadership. Leadership as everything. Our department success rises and falls on our leaders. Okay. So just some very specific things I want to talk about in that. Number one, let's as supervisors realize how difficult this frontline position is. And that's why Rick Olson and I use emerging leaders and coaching college. All right. So that we can really help develop the leaders and be the best you can be as coaches. That's on maybe the soft skills side. A little bit the harder skills side. Micromanaging is something that everyone talks about in contact centers because everything is tracked, every call is recorded, everything you do is completely tracked. So I recommend being careful with overuse of data. Try to find some very simple primary data that you hold your staff accountable to. Use the secondary data then to do the exploration and make tweaks as needed as a supervisor. When I say some very easy to understand primary data, I mean something like calls per hour or maybe widgets per hour, since you have so many different communication channels. I have a sneaky way I like to use that calculation too to make it as fair as possible. Quality scores, right? Something that I love helping is to develop quality forms to fit the needs of your department, your credit union, so that you can hold them accountable to their productivity, their quality, and then hold the team accountable to the abandon rate, right? And then that's all they have to worry about, so that you on the back end as a supervisor can really focus on all the other data that's out there, your requeues, your service levels, all the other stuff Ryan just talked about. Leadership is very important. So definitely please reach out if you want to hear more about that. So we're at the 50-minute mark. I'm going to hand it back over to Rick Olson to close us out, and then we'll draw a winner for our Ember mug, and we'll do some Q&A. Still muted, Rick. Everything disappears right when Rick is ready to talk.
All right. So, thank you, Credit Union friends, for spending an afternoon with us. Just a delight to spend the day. John, awesome insights, leadership insights. Thank you. That was excellent. Ryan and David, love what you guys are doing. Thank you for being brilliant in this area of all the technology that's available and how do we choose the best and the right one. Uh, uh, it's a fantastic service that you provide. We all are here, accessible, ready to help you every way that we can. I am going to tell you that John's new podcast just came out. We John and I and another guy named Joe, we do a lot of podcasts called 3Gen. And the John Wyrau podcast is just being released right now. So if you go to rickolson.com, there's a page where we have our podcast listed, and you'll find the John Wyrau podcast, and you can find out even more about this terrific person. But we do want to wrap it up. We have a prize we're going to give away, and we have purposely left some time at the end for Q&A. So let's figure out who's winning the prize. Is that what we're doing next? Are we doing the prize or we're doing the
Yeah.
Q&A?
Yeah, let's do the prize. David, do you have a winner already?
I've got a winner. The winner of the Ember mug. We wish we could give one to everyone, but we only have one, and it's going to Casey Burns. So we'll be reaching out after this webinar, see where you want the
Burns.
Ember mug sent, Casey. We'll be in touch.
Congrats, Casey.
Excellent. Congrats, Casey.
All right, way to go, Casey. It's been a fine day for you. Learned a lot and got a mug.
It's one of those things that you may never buy for yourself, but it's one heck of an awesome thing to win or give as a gift. So go ahead and we've still got some minutes. Pop in any questions you have in the Q&A. And oh, there we go. Will this webinar be available on demand? Oops, where did that go? Yes, I have some coworkers that like to ask to view it. Yes, absolutely, Jim. We will be sending out a link, a follow-up email with a link to the recorded version of this. Any other questions come through? And as we're waiting for those, I have a question for one of our attendees, Miss Becky Jones. I wonder if you'd be willing to share. We've talked a lot about the heart of the organization. Oh, her name popped up. Becky, you talk about the heart of the organization. Can you tell us a little bit about how you reorganized your contact center to provide a little different way of serving your internal members, as well as the rebranding of the name of your department?
Hi, John. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank
We
you.
do.
Awesome. Thank you. So we renamed our call center back about 8 years ago, actually. And the name of our team is the Heartbeat Hub.
The
And-
Heartbeat Hub. I want to highlight that. I love that name.
So definitely along the same thinking of being the heart of the organization. Our titles of our agents are actually solutions and support agents. And we house both internal and external support. So the difference in those two would be external agents are handling all of our incoming calls to our credit union. We actually don't look for necessarily call center experience or banking experience. We look for associates that are good with people. So we kind of take the approach that we don't need them to know everything. We just need them to be nice to people and provide great service. Our internal agents are our experts that are dedicated to assisting all associates with questions. So they are available to all of our credit union employees. So whether they're in a branch or they're a call center, these folks are sitting there answering questions all day long. So they are answering questions about products or services. They're helping somebody that has a member in front of them that maybe their card's not working, they can't get logged into their mobile banking. And so that's how we support our frontline team, by having experts available that to them all day long to help them.
That's awesome. I love the hire the smile and teach the skills, right? That is an excellent approach. And I just love the creativity that you came up with there. And I love that there's like more and more contact centers are developing like tiered positions or kind of breaking it into, sometimes it's more like the sales versus the information. You've done it into internal member service line, as opposed to another team that has an external service line. It's a lot of the same knowledge, but it's a little bit different. And it's the heartbeat hub of the organization. Thank you, Becky, so much for sharing your story.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Becky.
Now, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I just wanted to thank everybody so much for joining. You can tell we are passionate about this. We are passionate about the credit union movement. We are passionate about our contact centers. We want to help in any possible way we can. Keep an eye out for follow-up email with the link and some other information. And does anybody else have anything to say before we sign off?
Look forward to connecting with as many of you as possible, just to help you out. Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks
you.
for joining.
Thanks, friends.
Have a great day, everybody.